Hi, I am Angela Parrish. I am a professional musician in Los Angeles. I'm a songwriter, composer, studio singer, piano player, and producer. And I have been actively pursuing my career here for a decade. I have had a really kind of twisty but fun path to get to where I am now. I have a bachelor's in jazz piano and one in music education, then got my master's in jazz piano and was teaching and learning vocal jazz in college. Then I moved to Los Angeles as soon as I finished my master's degree and started pursuing an artist career, playing piano and singing. And then along the way, found out that songwriting and creating were really what I wanted to do most. And basically my window or my foot in the door into the industry was through being a studio vocalist. When I was in graduate school, I had basically gone because I knew I wanted to pursue performing and I needed a little bit more time to get an in-depth experience musically and really dig in. Had gone to a wonderful liberal arts school, but I didn't have like an exclusive music experience, so I wanted that. And thought at one point I might go into education, or I might have been a classroom teacher, possibly in public school. But then the more time I spent studying jazz, studying music, the more I knew I wanted to perform. And I had met Jeff Hamilton, who was a wonderful jazz drummer, when I was getting my master's. And at the time, I hadn't written a song ever, really. So I was planning on performing jazz standards and playing with the trio. So being a pianist, singer, kind of like Diana Krall, who he had worked with, was her first drummer. And so he said, well, if you want to do that, you should move to LA. So I did, just kind of went. I followed that, thinking that I at least had, someone I could lean on and he would help me kind of figure out how to do it. I didn't really know anybody else though, so I had to sort of figure everything else out, including the living situation. Lived in my car for a while, which was weird, but kind of an interesting story, and started finding jobs teaching private lessons in piano and voice, and started taking jazz piano lessons from Tamir Hindelman, who is Jeff's pianist in his trio. And I kind of woke up one day and started writing songs. I don't really know where it came from. I just sort of realized I had some things to say that weren't what other people had already said. I just wanted to make original things, I would say. I had started studying with a songwriting teacher named Mark Winkler, who's a jazz singer, and then that just kind of opened up everything for me. So I wanted to put my own stamp on performing, and I loved creating things, whether it was live performance or whether it was making things in the studio. So I just kind of took a shot on something I think I probably always wanted, but took me a really long time to figure out that was what I wanted. That kind of do a little bit of everything, and that's one thing I've always loved. Growing up, I was in a touring children's choir, singing classical and choral music. I played viola and orchestra, played both classical and jazz piano. I was in musical theater as a singer and actress when I was a kid. I just loved everything. And now as a writer and creator, I do a little bit of everything. I write pop, some with and for other artists, or for television shows, for TV, for film, for the stage as well. If it's for the stage, a lot of it has like a modern musical theater twist to it, so I do a lot of that too. I love going to Nashville and co-writing country with writers, so I love doing that. I'm from Kansas, so I have like a country Americana background. I like to create, whatever the situation calls for. Yeah, it's a little bit of everything, both as a writer and as a singer. Maybe 10% of what I do is jazz-based. Most of the live gigging I did, because I was like a singer piano player at a club restaurant for 6.5 years, Vitello's in Studio City in LA, and that was like really jazz based. So a lot of the live performing mostly has been jazz, but the recording has been more pop, more musical theater. But like everything I learned in my degree, I feel like I got really deep into one thing so I could carry that knowledge into other areas. But yeah, not really just jazz. And that's okay. Like at the time, I think if I had known in my master's degree that I wasn't going to be just a jazz musician, I would have felt like I failed somehow. But like when I got out of school, I was like, I really love everything and I want to do everything. So the path that you wind up on might be different, but if you're happy, it's like a really good thing. For me, my personal challenges have been self-esteem struggles, which encompasses a lot of it. Climbing the ladder, I suppose, and knowing that it's okay if it takes time and you're not doing anything wrong. And then just money. That's always a challenge. So first of all, I think when I was a little kid, I knew exactly who I was. And then somewhere along the way, I have OCD and I have ADHD, but didn't know it until I was like 33. So like just somewhere along the way, I lost all of my self-confidence. And I thought I wasn't worth very much and wasn't worth taking a chance on. And so being like confident in who I am and how I sound and not doubting myself, that took me a really long time. I think Berklee is really great at instilling confidence and stage presence in performers. And so hopefully none of you have to ever worry about that. But if you do, it's not also like oh, you're never going to be a confident person. You're out of the game. Or it's also not like, you have to fake confidence until you make it. Like I had to organically like get it. And I did, just because it was like after kind of realizing, oh, this is how my brain works. Just realizing like, oh, this is my brain doing this. And then all of a sudden I could like say, okay, brain, take a break. And then like, I'm proud of all the things I've done. So mental health and confidence. And then I would just overthink everything. Like, am I marketing myself correctly? Should I fake confidence? Should I try to just be a jazz musician? Should I pick a lane? It's tough with marketing because I know that everyone's like, be clear about what you do. But what I do is all these different things. Jack of all trades phrase used to be jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one. But everyone cut off that end of the phrase. So for me, I wear many hats. I'm like a Swiss Army knife of music, and I love doing it. And that's where I'm like, I'm me. And that's okay. It's actually the best thing. So I would just think like, what if I made a wrong choice? What if I set myself back by more years? I've been here 4 years and this person has been here 2 years and they've already been on all these shows. And I would compare myself, compare. I still do that, but I try to not worry about it. It took me 10 years to become a full-time songwriter, composer, producer person. But that's actually, relatively short, I think. If it takes a long time, doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It takes time to build genuine relationships. It's sort of like the analogy of a marriage or a long-term partnership makes sense because it's like people aren't going to like be like her immediately. Yes, like you have to build that time and trust too. So like just knowing that it's okay if it takes time. And then being broke all the time is hard. But also I could buy less shoes or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Like I feel like, that's where having the 9 to 5 is a good thing. That's where having multiple income streams, like Mark Winkler, my awesome songwriting teacher, he was like, you can't really create from your best place when you're starving. So don't starve, like go get a job. If I'm worried about paying rent, I'm not going to sit around and be like, well, I can't pay my rent, but I'm going to write a song. Or like, I can't pay my mortgage. No, I'm going to figure out how to pay my mortgage. And for a while, I lost my performing job when they had some weird issues with the club. And so I drove for Uber. It was immediate. I was able to do it. It was fine. So make sure you eat. I thought I had to suffer for my art, either financially or like mentally. Like I can't make good art if I'm not in pain. Life is painful enough. It will bring you pain, whether you want it to or not. So don't worry about creating it. Take care of yourself and the rest will follow. I wish I had had the knowledge of taking care of myself better, which I didn't have till the pandemic came, actually. There were times when I wasn't a very good friend, like not like a bad friend, like a mean friend, but like I wasn't, I couldn't spend time with the people I loved because I thought I had to work 100%. Or the whole message that like, if you don't work 24/7, someone's going to work harder than you and someone else is going to get that job. So work. And like, that's just not really a great way to live your life. And you can't make music about making music. You have to have a life to make music about. Easier said than done. If I hadn't done that, would I be here? Probably not. That's another tough one. But just to know that like, even if the balance is, not totally balanced, at any point in your life, you do need a day off. I make so much better stuff with a day off in my week than I used to when I never took a day off and made myself sick all the time. So rest time is okay. When I moved to Los Angeles, I wish I had known that who I was always okay. And in fact, the best thing I had to offer, that my real self, the self that likes to do lots of different things, the goofy, like, I've for the longest time thought I've got to be like cool like Phoebe Bridgers if I ever want to be successful, but I'm not cool at all. I'm really weird. And that's in which I'm successful. So I just wish I had truly known that like truly my real self was what I had to offer. And the most authentic version of that. Los Angeles is what it's like stereotyped as is very different than what it really is, I found. It's not just like this, like, plastic surgery beach place. It's like, and everyone's mean and everyone's a model. It's more like, I don't know, like I love the film music community. And it was hard for me to find a scene, but really by just being myself, I wound up having lots of cool different scenes and meeting lots of wonderful different people. I'm making friends from all kinds of genres of music. So I wish I had known I didn't have to find a scene. I could just be me mostly. My next career goal is I really to continue to do more of what I'm doing as a songwriter specifically. I love to write a musical that would, I mean, you know, Broadway is a great dream, but it's like, I just like to make things that everybody experiences. So whether that's something that's a filmed project, whether that's on stage, I just want people to be able to experience it. So I'd like to continue to do more of what I'm doing, but at a higher level. So I mean, you know, I think all of us in the arts have an idea about wanting some sort of fame or recognition. But for me, it's more like I'd love to be well known for making something good. So I'd love to be like a Randy Newman or a Pascal Paul, or get to the level where someone's like, oh yeah, I know who that is. She did this thing that I love. She made this thing. And I feel like the path I'm on now is leading to that, which is really cool. But I'm really happy making things. And strangely, I mean, I love performing, but I like being in the studio and creating and writing songs so much more, if I'm really honest. If I had to pick, I'd pick writing. I like performing. I think I've put far too much pressure on myself as a performer. So I'm going to start trying to kind of see if it's more fun if I relax. The Randy Newman life, the Danny Elfman life is what I'm aiming towards. And those guys all did lots of different things. You know, they sang, they play piano, they play instruments, they wrote for films. Many hats, chaotic, wonderful life. I really love working in animation, working with Henson, with puppets, and writing things that are funny. I actually have I'm a pianist and music director for this musical theater comedy acting troupe called Shitty Broadway. It's super fun. It is so silly, and I just love working with them. They are wonderful colleagues, and we just make dumb stuff, and it's so fun. Anytime I can laugh and work with really great people, I think like creatively rewarding too is different. Like, that stuff is just pure like joy. And then I sang on The Weeknd's last album, and that was so fun and creatively rewarding. It was a concept album, so that was incredibly creatively rewarding. I think like for me, sheer fun is the animation and writing comedy stuff and getting to do things that are just that make you smile. I'm definitely more of the like happy boppy kind of artist, you know, like I always tried to be the sad broody one, but that's just really not. I mean, I'm very like I can be really sad inside, but like my artist personality is not broody. Not at all. So, and then just creatively rewarding, like anything that's a concept. So that Weeknd album was just incredible to work on. A group of us are hired by other singers that we know. It just kind of threw in, you know, random connections of people, but we did a choir on that, and there were 10 of us. And the sonic reference for us was they wanted it to sound like the Charles Manson family singers. So I have a lighter voice. I don't have a super heavy singing voice. And so, you know, people usually want like a big sound, but they were like, yeah, we want people to sound like a tranced out hippie choir, and my voice fits that perfectly. so it was just like, you know, very like super airy and spacey. So we got to do all of that. Like we were the purgatory choir. The Weeknd always is a different like character in his stuff. And so he's like on a journey through purgatory and listening to all these songs on the radio station of the afterlife. So we were like the afterlife choir, which was really, really cool. The Jimmy Kimmel job was another wonderful like personal relationship kind of opportunity. From when I played at the Vitello's Club, the band leader, Cleto Escobedo, would come in and just hang out and, you know, have dinner with his family, would come as a patron basically, and then just got into a conversation with him. He would tip me every time he was in the like every single time. He is the most generous, amazing person. So he just needed a singer, and he started hiring me for some off-camera things. It's like bumpers and bits. Like the first thing I got to do was like there was something where Eric Andre was coming on and they needed someone to just go whoa and just like sing that like while he walked on. So a little bumper. I've done like a parody of like Let's Go Out to the Lobby. So just like little like fun bits basically. And then I've done 2 on camera. One was singing with Sean Hayes, who was in Will and Grace, singing like backing for him. That was super fun. He was just like reading people's like negative reviews of his podcast. And we got to arrange those vocals. The head writers will write them, and then their band will help set them to music, and then we just add parts. So I actually got to hire my friends for that, because you get one chance to do it. So people that can like just go in and do it, people that like have a good sense of humor, because it's usually really silly. And then people that can arrange and, you know, sing by ear and sing on the fly. And then the other one was like, it was like a Karen. They had to like cover me up a lot because I had lots of decorations, and they dyed my hair with like some shoe polishy kind of thing. And I was like, had to be like a terrible Karen at Christmas. So that was really fun. But I work on Kimmel 4 or 5 times a year probably. So best environment. It's wonderful. Everybody there is super nice. If you're like a regular staff member there, or if you're like a band member, you're on salary plus, like, you're also paid for live appearance. So for me, it's just per day. So typically it's like a day rate, a SAG day rate. And then on camera or off camera is different depending on what I'm doing. And then if it's off camera, it's AFTRA. And if it's on camera, it's SAG, even though it's the same. That's like the day pay and then first airing. And then that's when you get like 9 months later, typically you get a residual pay for when they re-air it. So typically it's not more beyond that, but it winds up being a nice payday, like about $1,500 in total, which is good for a day's work. And it's great. So then it's like, oh, if it were every day, you'd be set. But then like, nobody works every day on something. So it's also nice because you have variety all the time. Like some days you're singing, for an animation thing. And then because I've been a singer, I've been hired as a songwriter on these projects. And then because I'm a songwriter, sometimes they need a singer on the project. So it all has fed itself. Yeah, they all help each other.